I'm Mary White, and Minouche Moradinia and I are the co-chairs of WEED, which is a volunteer-run feminist organization. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. We'd like you to put your, while I'm talking, please put your land acknowledgement in the chat, just so we know where you're from and the land that you're from. So let's get started. Women Eco Art Dialogue was started in 1996 as a volunteer-run collective of female-identified visual artists, curators, writers, art historians, researchers, scientists, and others interested in highlighting the intersection of art and ecological issues. So we thank you for coming to this very special event to dialogue on the collaborative process and on civic engagement. We'd like to start with the land acknowledgements, and please put your own land acknowledgement and your location in the chat if you'd like. WEED's office sits on the territory of the Huichen, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chichoneo-speaking Ohlone people, the successors of the sovereign Verona tribe of Alameda County, near one of the largest shell mounds in the Bay Area. The land was and continues to be of great importance to the Muwekma Ohlone tribe and other familiar descendants of the Verona band. We recognize the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, who are campaigning to become federally recognized, the Association of Ramaytush Ohlone, who are researching, revitalizing, and preserving Ramaytush Ohlone history and culture, and the Confederated Villages of Lejeune and the Segura Che Land Trust, who are working to return native land back to the indigenous stewardship. A little Zoom housekeeping. We'll be recording this presentation, so please keep your audio muted when you're not speaking, and the hosts may mute you if there's extra noise. Our panel workshop will go on for approximately 45 minutes, and after the workshop part of it finishes, we'll stop the first recording and start a second recording for questions and answers. If you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat for the questions section. One thing is that we are working on a new artist directory for WEED, and we have paid a web developer for the last 3 months. So if you'd like to give a donation towards this effort, which we hope will be finished by the end of the month, and also check out our new issue 13 of the magazine. I'm now delighted to introduce our workshop leader and artist member, Beth Grossman. And Beth asked me to do a brief bio, but please, you can look her up and there's lots of information. She had a master's degree from the New York University Tisch School of Arts in New York, and many solo shows, including the Dialog, a show right now in San Francisco, as far as she'll tell you more about it, the Museum of American Jewish History in Philadelphia. And I've met her through her civic engagement projects, where she is working as a socio-political artist who sees the visual arts as a way to collect community dialogue. So it's perfect for WEED, and we're looking forward to this wonderful workshop, and she'll tell you more about hers. So with no further ado, introduce Beth Grossman.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Manouche. Thank you, WEED, for inviting me. Thank you all for coming. Special shout out, my mom, Arliss Grossman, and my mother and father-in-law, Dennis Carlson and Beulah Downing are here. And I also have new friends that I met from Canada that are Linda and Gina, and old friends, Carol. And so all the rest of you, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to give a short presentation, and then we're going to do a little bit of a breakout room. So let me just find my presentation here. I don't usually read, but given that we have a short amount of time, I just wanted to get to it, make sure I could get everything in. So I'll start now. I love being an artist. I get to wake up each day and think about what I care about, what I notice, and how I want to share what I experience and how I can invite others into dialogue. My artistic practice requires that I take responsibility to think about how I forge a path with a consciousness about the impact of my footsteps and the power of my voice. I've been teaching and hosting manifesto workshops to invite everyone to know the power of their voice and how to infuse their daily work of all kinds with their values. The situation we face today in our world requires all hands on deck with working together with long-term clear intention. So today we're going to get a chance after this introduction and my presentation to start the process of designing a personal manifesto. A manifesto is a mission statement. It's a declaration of core values and a call to action. For me, it's evolved from studies of historical and contemporary artistic practices and evaluations of my past artistic experiences and my experiments. It changes with time, situation, priorities, and goals. And a manifesto can take any creative form, such as writing, poetry, scripts, songs, drawings, mapping, performance, rituals, you name it. And it starts by identifying what you care deeply about and speaking out about it. So for starters, I want to have us, we're going to use the chat a little bit, and then we're also going to do a breakout room. So briefly, we already wrote in your name and where you're calling from. So now I want you to write something that you care deeply about. And I'll give you half a minute to just think about it and put it in the chat, because that's the first thing that I find that in terms of developing a manifesto, if you can build it around what you care about, it's really helpful. So go ahead on that. I'm going to read some of them out loud. This is really great. Carol, my own well-being, my community, and the local environment. I wrote thinking long-term and working together. Zan, feeding people. Linda, spending my energy and time on meaningful work. Beulah, family is very important to me. Carolyn, I care about pollination systems here in Eastern Mass and their impact on food, neighborhood, and endangered species. And authenticity. Pearl, world peace, especially in the Middle East. Yen, thank that everyone is heard and seen. Naomi, connection and honoring all honoring all living creatures. Let's see, natural systems and the life forms within it. That's Deb. Oh, wow, from Australia. L.A. Hyder, feminist principles, inclusion. From Mary. Christina, healthy free-flowing creeks and rivers and healthy forests with mature trees, salmon, sturgeon, and human beings being a beneficial presence. Mary, finding commonalities. And Therese, I'm using sunlight and on optical mirror to reflect the light birds that fly, the live birds that fly with the arc of the sun. They are analog, tread lightly on the earth, and address danger of warming ocean to birds and other sea life. Thank you. I think I can't see everybody. So, because there's a lot of people here that I'm not seeing on my screen. Oh yeah, wow. Hi, everybody. Okay, there's a lot more people than I see. Great. Thank you for that. Okay. So after 35 years of experimenting with different paths in my art making, performance, and activism, I can now look back and see a clear thread of my values throughout my diverse projects, both locally and around the world. Each project represents a personal learning process, and I love to invite others to learn with me. That means that sometimes the riskiest projects with elements of failure provide the richest learning and future questions to explore. We're all walking down unknown paths to discover new creative methods to tackle our environmental and social challenges. Entering that unknown and discussing the conundrums, finding creative possibilities, and sharing that process is what makes my work art. When I embark on any project, I found that it's helpful to have a clear set of principles that reflect my values and motivate and direct my work. So I have a long list of them, but for right now, I picked about 5 of them to share, which is care passionately, point out the elephant in the room and take liberties, provide welcoming points of entry such as history, beauty, humor, and craft, and keep widening the circle, listen deeply, risk failure, evaluate and get downright creative, and have fun and keep a sense of humor. So these are just a few of the principles that make up my personal manifesto. It's a living document that changes and grows as I continue working and challenging myself as an artist and an activist. A clear list of my principles provides a foundation for my methodology and a roadmap as I apply these tenets to the developing, multifaceted aspects of each project. So I'm going to quickly share 2 projects to attempt to demonstrate how I apply these principles in my projects. And so I'm going to try to demonstrate how I apply these principles, and sometimes with the obstacles and challenges, which makes it interesting and raises more questions. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen. Sec. Is that good? All right.
Yep.
So I'm going to share just 2 projects briefly, because I want to leave time for us to have some breakout rooms and a workshop envisioning time. So this first project is called The Law of Seeds. And I was inspired by the Rights of Nature movement, and I wanted to contribute my own Bill of Rights that I wrote for seeds and do it in the form of an art project. This all started also because I was invited to do an artist residency at the Queen's Botanical Garden in New York. And so I had a studio in the garden. And so one of my tenets in my manifesto is know your audience. And I knew that I had to think of a project that people were already coming to a garden, people who love plants and are curious about nature and all that. And so I knew that that was my audience, and I wanted to have a dialogue with them, and the Rights of Nature would be perfect. So here I am, I'm working with the public and in dialogue with them, and that was also informing the way that I was writing my my Bill of Rights. And then also, as you can see, I'm doing it with a quill pen, and I learned how to scribe in the style of the US Constitution, which was written with a quill pen, which is very anachronistic and a great way to get people come up and talk to you and say, wow, is that a pen? Did you make that? Or did you write that? And so it's that's what I'm talking about, having a point of entry to invite people to come in my project. I rarely go up to people. I let them come to me by doing something interesting that evokes some kind of curiosity. And so all the way along, as I was I didn't finish the whole project there, but I started it there. And as I was working on it, I was interacting with the public and asking them what rights they thought that seeds should have. And I also wanted to give them a way that, to get their hands busy and starting to do creative and work. And a lot of people have a thing about, I can't draw, but everybody can collage. So, and often they'll start drawing and writing too. So I had people of all ages working in my studio, which was only 12 feet by 12 feet. And I had them, the question was, what do you love about nature, and what rights do you think that nature should have? People did beautiful collages, which I posted all over my studio. And another one of the tenets in my manifesto is mentor when possible. So here you can see a young one learning how to write with a quill pen and completely intent upon doing that. So this is the work and they're on vintage seed bags. And I also, each one has a different right, but also a seed germinating from the seed kernel to the full plant. What's also interesting that these are vintage seed bags, so the graphics on the back have a lot of sometimes offensive images of Native Americans and stereotypes, as well as other strange graphics, but they're fascinating. So it's also interesting to take that and then transform it. Again, another tenet of my manifesto is reuse when possible. So then the next part was, okay, how can I share this? And I thought of a truly outrageous idea, which of course my rational brain said, oh, that could never happen. And then I went, whenever I hear that in my mind, I go, oh yes, it could. And so I, one of the things too that in my manifesto is to become very involved hyper locally in my city council, and to be on first name basis with our mayor and our city council and all the city staff. So I had this idea to share this in city halls and to get them to adopt my Bill of Rights as a proclamation, which is not ordinance, because most of my rights that I said were things like, not being able to patent a seed and things that would require like major ordinances and law changing and everything. But I wanted to get the cities to understand that they have a lot of power and that they can actually declare a non-GMO zone in their state, or they can dictate what kinds of chemical fertilizers and pesticides can be used in the city, or at the very least, they can determine what the city uses on city property. So here we are, I'm teaching our mayor, Clark Conway, how to sign the proclamation with a quill pen. And the other picture is me as they are reading my Bill of Rights into the public record in Foster City. So, so that's kind of, you can get a sense of how I used all of the things many of the things in my manifesto, but it also has certain problems like, well, it raises awareness, it creates a focal point to bring people together into dialogue at a city meeting and at an opening and that kind of thing. But it's not law. It doesn't, really change anything, but it sets an intention. And then the other thing was that I had this vision that I wanted to be able to take it to city halls all over the country, or who knows, even the world. And but I realized too that they are elected officials and they only respond to people in their communities. So my next obstacle became, how do I reach people who would be willing to take this up with their city councils and get this going? And it can be done with or without a showing of the work. But anyways, that's one of the obstacles that I'm still trying to address, and finding people who are willing and want to know and learn how to interact with their city councils. The next project I wanted to share is I was invited to do a residency at an environmental arts center in Michoacan, Mexico. And like many of my projects, I start going out walking and talking to people and listening and noticing. And one of the things that I saw on my walk every day was that there was this beautiful lake, but it was being used as a garbage dumping ground. And then when the water receded in the summer, it was left with all the garbage. And that was the feeding plains for the cattle and horses. So effectively, when the plastic breaks down into little shards, the animals were eating a lot of plastic along with the grass. So in my standard methodology, I was meeting people, and there was a little school across from the hacienda where we were staying. And so I invited the students to come over for a art making workshop. And we made banners, and I divided them to two groups, and on their own, one group made a utopian view of the lake, and the other one group made a dystopian banner. And my idea in talking to people was kind of like getting people to see like, wow, this is such a beautiful lake. and asking them what they loved about it. And also finding out that the reason why it was being used as a dumping ground was because it was the big dump was far away, and it took gasoline they didn't have a pickup system. So it took gasoline to take the garbage there. So they just started throwing it into the lake. So in lots of conversations, I started, and I decided I asked, well, what do you think about if we had a big lake cleanup party on a Saturday morning? And they were like, great. But then the question was, what were they going to do with all the garbage once they collected? So using my skills and methodology of getting to know the mayor, I met the mayor of Campo Hermoso, and I asked him if he would be willing to help promote it and also come with trucks to pick up the garbage that we collected. So it was a Saturday morning, and about 30 people came, which was amazing because people on the ranch, they work really hard all day, all week, and every day actually, and they took time out to come and clean up. And I asked them to bring the feed bags that they had laying around in their barns, and they're this kind of plastic woven. So it was like a new use for those bags, and we filled them up, and we had a lot of fun. And I also promised that there was going to be prizes, and they weren't going to be plastic prizes, and that got a lot of people to come. And the prizes were trees and small trees that people could take home and plant in their yards, and the kids got to plant them in the schoolyard. And also, I thought that it would also be a reminder. So I think it was we had a fun time, but there was a lot of interesting sort of cultural things and awareness, like being a visitor, being from the United States, being a white person, doing this whole project in Spanish. There were a lot of interesting things that came up. And, I really had to sort of ask myself, I was constantly trying to listen and be appreciative of how beautiful the lake was and all their efforts. And sometimes a visitor can show people what we don't see. Like if like, for example, in my house, I can have clutter that I don't even see. And then I go away for a little bit and I come back and I go, oh my God, I got to clean up this clutter. And then within a day, if I don't see it anymore. So I think that's one of the things that was kind of nice about being a visitor, but I was very conscious about not wanting to be critical, and that could be seen that way. And then the other thing was that I had also hoped that people would get really excited about this and have it be a seasonal, like every season that they would do a lake cleanup party or something like that. But I also realized that being a visiting artist and coming in is like, there's that helicopter artist syndrome, where I came in and did a project and then I left, and I didn't have a way to stay in touch and keep that energy going. And I wasn't there long enough to develop long-term relationships, which is another thing in my manifesto, to develop long-term lasting relationships, to be able to know if it was keeping going. I think it was still a worthy project. I think that especially working with the kids and in the workshop and having them participate in the cleanup, I think that they may interrupt their parents or question their parents dumping, but there's a underlying bigger problem of there not being a garbage pickup and the gasoline being so expensive. So anyways, those are two examples of how I try to, there we go, how I try to infuse my projects with some of the ideas in my manifesto. So let's see what's next. Oh, what's next is you all. So the questions, we're going to break off into listening pairs, and the total is going to be 10 minutes. And everyone's going to get 5 minutes each. And in this time, I'd like you to answer these questions. One sec, I need to find them. So what are your key values? some of them anyways. Because remember that this developing a manifesto, it's an ongoing process. And it's also something that you just keep doing things and you start to notice, oh, like I'm noticing these threads. And how do you put them into practice? So it can be, how do you already, or how would you like to, or how would you like to do more of that? And then if you have time, which I doubt you will, but just kind of to get, I'm asking this question just to get it percolating, start to think about what form you would like to express your personal manifesto in, like, you know, just a list, writing, or some kind of a painting, or a poem, or a performance, or a ritual, or whatever. So I'm going to put these in the chat, and then so you can refer to them. And then Manoush, can you divide us into 2 groups? And so basically, in your pair, you're going to divide the time into 5 minutes. And during that 5 minutes, it'll actually go really fast, believe me. You're going to just listen and not interrupt, and you know, kind of be a witness and help them remember that way by being heard. And then after 5 minutes, please keep your own time, switch, and the other person will be the speaker and be listened to. Okay, so I'm putting this in the chat, and then Manoush is going to break you out, and then she'll pull you back in 10 minutes. Okay, is everyone back?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome back. I hope that was a good session that you had with each other and that you made a nice connection. Can you write 3, just to solidify them for yourself, write 3 of the key values in the chat.
I missed what you said, Beth.
Write 3 of the key values that you mentioned in your breakout session in the chat. So then we're going to have, this will inspire, it'll solidify it for you, but also inspire others to think of, oh yeah, that one. Oh, this is a beautiful collection that we're developing. So you've got, don't be afraid to take risks, listen, learn, be present, compassion, kindness, authenticity, make connections, respect, listen to the environment, taking time, being still, authenticity, kindness, compassion, spiritual practice, connection, sustainability, inclusion, finding ways to contribute meaningfully, sustainability, justice, community building, honor all beings, connections, have fun, be kind, acknowledge spirit, consciousness in nature, spiritual meaning, connect with people, learn about plants. Beautiful. Environmental impact on birds, develop a community around birds, research birds in different communities, improve local habitat, honesty, integrity, kindness. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. That is a nice collection. I wanted to, hopefully we'll figure out how to save the chat. Great. So I want to open it up to if anyone has any questions. You can just either raise your hand, or actually it would be good if you can do the little hand raising thing, so because I can't see everyone on my screen at once.
Okay, we can, if you put your hands up in the reactions, then we can call on you. Or if you wave your hand, maybe we'll see you, but there's. Oh, yes, Anne. Anne?
Go ahead, Anne.
Like to unmute?
Yeah, hi. So I have a question. When I'm coming up with my key values, I can imagine that you could have key values for your work in general and then have different key values for a specific project. Is that true? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, sure. I think that some different projects, like I said, it's a living document, it's evolving. Some projects require more focus on certain values. And like in particular, if it's a international project or in a different culture or whatever, now we've got a whole nother set of values that I may not have to pay attention to as closely if I was working close to home. But even close to home, we're working amongst so many different cultures too, that we have to have that kind of respect. So I don't know, I think that one of the things too that having a manifesto for myself has also helped me think about what projects I want to take or don't want to take on, you know, because it helps me. It's like, well, this sounds fun, sounds great, this would be good for my career, this would be great money, whatever, but if it's funded by an oil company, doesn't fit. Or if I'm using materials that are doing harm to the environment, doesn't fit. So maybe I don't want to take on that project. So I really use my manifesto as a kind of roadmap for myself. And it also, the other part too, is that when I also found that one of the things that creates the most amount of stress in my life is having to make decisions. So in a certain way, by having this manifesto, I've already made a lot of decisions. And I just can ask the question, does this fit or not to my manifesto? Because it's mine, it's my personal. I can also say, you know, sometimes you have to let go, or sometimes you have to make compromises, or sometimes the good outdoes the bad or whatever. But just having that is like my foundation. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have Therese. Therese up next.
Mary, I don't think I was next. I think there was at least one person before me.
Oh.
You see another
Go
hand?
ahead.
Go
I
ahead.
don't see another hand. Go ahead. I don't see another hand, but maybe. Go ahead.
Thank you. Inspiring projects, Beth.
Thank
And
you.
can you talk about how you developed your skill set of connecting with community? Like, what's your manifesto there? And then also connecting with municipalities. Like, I live in Emeryville, which is a small city. So I actually know my civic leaders and have artwork in the city hall. And but other cities, that access doesn't seem like it would be as easy. And then the third question is, you're in a way, you're a teacher, you know, of all ages of people. So those are three really distinct skill sets. I've taught a lot, but only adults. And so, but they do seem important in terms of bringing the community voices into the artwork. So could you describe, developing those aspects of your manifesto?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to say is that one of the other key questions to ask yourself when developing your manifesto is, what are my skills? What are my strong points? What do I like to do? What don't I like to do? And then taking that apart and going like, well, where do I kind of need to push myself a little bit because I want to, or, not so much. I just going to focus on what I do well. So I'm one of those compulsive connectors. I love to communicate. I love to learn languages. Even if I make a fool of myself, I'm willing to make mistakes. I'm willing to kind of talk to anybody, but this isn't everybody's personality, and everyone has their strong points, and we need, like I said in my talk, we need all hands on deck, and everybody working together is going to fill the gaps. And so I think if you're interested in working you're lucky being in a small town, because I have also lived in New York City, and I've lived in Oakland, and I've lived in Minneapolis, and those are larger cities, and it is harder to really get to know and have any kind of real voice in larger cities. But I really want to encourage everyone to not give up and to make relationships, because they are our elected officials. They're accountable to us, and they actually do want to hear from us. And there's a process to learn about how to interact with the city. And a lot of the cities even have courses that they offer. I know ours does, about how to interact with the city and how to be on commissions and all that kind of thing. So I think that, part of developing your manifesto is to really figure out what your strengths are, what you love to do, how you want to spend your time, what's fun, where you want to challenge yourself, and then go for it. The other part too, as I'm talking about this, I'm realizing that it's really a hard thing. It's a hard road to do alone, which is why I put people in pairs. And I'll also say that I have been I think it's almost 25 or 30 years now, we've lost track, been doing 20 minutes each way with an artist in Los Angeles, where I get to just kind of talk every morning, and she talks every morning about her goals and what am I doing today, and what, that wake up, the thing that I said in the morning, wake up, what do I care about? What do I notice? What's irking me? A lot of times my projects, I get ideas every day. I write them down. I rarely refer to them, because the projects that get done are the ones that stick around and bug me so badly till I finally have to do something, or I get an invitation that relates to one of my ideas. So anyways, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And definitely putting together a team where everybody has a different skill set and being clear about what the skill sets are.
Mm-hmm. And supporting each other, because it's more fun to do it together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
All right,
you.
we've got a hand up from Lisa Zimmerchu.
Hey, I can attest to Beth's willingness to talk to anyone, because when I first moved here, I cornered her at Yerba Buena, and we almost made her miss her bus. And it was a great first connection for me moving to the Bay Area. Beth, my question has to do with, because you're so focused on process and kind of the relationship that comes out of the creations that you do, which I know are often community based. Does it become important to you to ascertain what the impact is? How do you measure impact? How do you care about impact in terms of those projects and how you feel about their success, especially in the context of there's a lot of work to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a good question. And it's also if you ever are applying for grants, it's now one of the questions that you have to answer. And it kind of, it frustrates me in the proposal part of it, where you have to talk about what you're planning to do and how you're going to measure the impact, because that's where I feel like, okay, that makes it into a social project rather than an art project. For me, I like entering the unknown, walking down the path, seeing what's going to happen, learning new things from the people that I meet and inviting them in. And I can't anticipate that in the beginning of a proposal situation. And so that part kind of frustrates me in the proposal writing part. But it is part of my manifesto to look back at my projects. So I'll just take the lake cleanup project, for example. It was a problematic situation for a white woman to come from America and start a lake cleanup project in a Mexican village, and the question is, and I wasn't able to know if it was going to continue, and I wasn't able to keep the relationship with the mayor because I wasn't his constituent, and all that. Do I know if it had an impact? Well, at that moment, when we finished cleaning the lake, there was a sense of solidarity and sense of accomplishment and pride. And we all kind of commented when we looked at the lake, it kind of like twinkled back at us. And the kids got trees to plant in their schoolyard that might remind them of this. The rancheros now have a new use for their empty seed bags or fertilizer bags and all that. So to use them to collect garbage, maybe. So I don't know. I don't really know what the impact is. And it's not a social project, it's art, you know? So I always try to keep track of that. I hope it has some lasting project, but I also always take into consideration, I remember, I think it was, oh, correct me, somebody said that, I'm blanking right now, Maya Angelou said, it's not what you say, it's how people feel when they're with you. And so I always keep that in mind. Maybe it's part of my manifesto too, to just know that people feel seen, feel heard, feel connected, feel empowered, feel a sense of hope, and hope through that connection.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
We have time for one more question. Anybody? You want to make a comment or a comment about a project they've done that relates?
Well, I just wanted to respond for your answer to my question, which was, you know, the question was not so much about proposals and kind of the restrictions of the art world and the confines that they want to put you into, but I think you raised the question in your assessment of what worked and didn't work about that project at the lake. And clearly it informs you in the future about what was it that I'm not going to pursue a project like this in the future. So the informing, I think, is really important.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Right.
Good. Well, let's see, couple things. I wanted to just let you know that this project, this manifesto, I've been teaching this, actually, I did this as a 6-week project with graduate students in Helsinki. So 6 weeks, we got to do it every day, 8 hours a day. And my full curriculum is published in a book that might be useful to people here. And I'm going to put it in the chat. I hope it comes up. Here we go. It's called Eco Art in Action. And it is a collection of curriculum and case studies that was put together by members of the Eco Arts Network. And I posted, there's also a discount of code on the NYU Press order page for that work, for that book. So, oh, sorry, I didn't post it yet. Come on, there we go. There it is. That's one thing I want to let you know about. And my full curriculum for the manifesto, 6-week project is in there. This is a very abbreviated. And then also I wanted to let you know that I have a beautiful show up at the Contemporary Jewish Museum in San Francisco. It's been up for almost a year. It will be up until January 6th. And it's my Golden Rule, Universal Golden Rule project. It's in the windows on Yerba Buena Lane on the side of the museum. And it's part of a beautiful show on Tikkun that features about 30 artists. And Tikkun in Hebrew means to heal the world and leave it better for the next generation. So anyways, I just wanted to let you know that that is there. And also, just in closing, I wanted to ask you to put something in the chats. One thought in the chat about what you're taking with you from today, because that will help cement it and also remind others. So take 30 seconds to put that in. We're gonna have a beautiful collection of thoughts in this. Okay, and in keeping with another part of my manifesto is to keep things on time and time in a timely manner. I want to thank Manoush and Mary and Weed for inviting me to share my work, and it's really, and to invite you all to start to design a manifesto. I hope that you'll carry on with this ongoing manifesto development and that it'll be helpful to keep you going in all of your good work. Take your time, let it evolve, and enjoy.
Well, thank you very much. And let's give her a visual applause. And thank you very much. And as not sure that Naomi's thoughts on the got read, but I thought they were beautiful, which is listen, learn, and be present. And that's kind of sums up what you said today. So thank you very much for attending the Weed event. And we have a new issue of the magazine, and we have another event on November 20th with Rico Goto and Tim Collins, who have an article in the magazine. So we hope you can come as well. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Be well.